Here we're fitting the top half of the case, or the alternator side. And you want to make sure that you have this pin lined up, because this top part will swing all over the place. That's the way it just does when you're going to tighten it up. And remember, all we have to get is this crank to this edge, and everything else will pull in place. This half will sink down in, this one will too, and your gray moto seal will seal the deal. And for the record, there is no gasket that is put between these, and I don't know if there's any sealant either. I just like to use it just in case. Now, there's the edge of the crankshaft right here. It has to go through the bearing. Remember, the bearing is seated right here. This side has already been seated, and you can see as this is pulled farther along, then these cases will slowly come together, and you got about a ½ an inch or 5/8, I don't know how many millimeters. Like I said, we don't do anything in millimeters. It's kind of like soccer. I've never even seen a game before, even though I won one of these years. Now here I have the motor seal is drip a little bit. It shouldn't have done that, but I think when I was doing it, it was really cold. And all this little black parts are all road tar. And of course your tire is going to go right in here, around here. It comes out. So I'll do a few cranks, and then I'll check the cases, and I'll keep checking them, and just slowly pull everything together. Here's another view. And you can see that this is this is the long-handled puller. And I'll do the same thing here. I'll lock the end, and then I'll take a crescent wrench, 10-inch, and I'll slowly turn that to the right, and it will slowly pull the cases together. Now, I don't know if there's any other videos showing exactly how this is done. And like I said, I was going to charge some money for rental or whatever, and I decided, oh, hell with it. You know, I'm a decent guy. Just give it all away. It's my work. It's my art. And here's the other piece. These are little stainless steel pins, dowel pins. Now we're getting a little bit closer to the. And I took maybe 10 pictures of everything to make sure I got as many as I wanted. Now right here on this bottom end of the crank, or they call it the big end, because the bearing there is bigger than the little end. But when this crankshaft comes forward, there is a tendency for it to hit up here and to hit back here. And you have to make sure that in the rotation of the piston that you don't have it hitting on anything. No scraping, no nothing. Alright, and there you go. That's what the piston cases look like, or the crank cases look like brought together. And you want to make sure that, and this does happen, that your gap on your right side is the same as the gap, or the gap on your right side is the same as the one on the left. Now you see I have a little bit of motor seal here, but that's no big deal. Remember that the large cylinder wall will come down and mate right here at the bottom, so that's no big deal. But you can also see up here there is a hole. Now air can go through that hole and out through this end right here. So this is where the bolt goes, and what I do is I make sure that no matter what happens down here, that I have got some airtight sealant up here to make sure that no air can go out through this cylinder and out that way. Matter of fact, I do it on all the bolts. Just because I don't want to have any weak spots on it. And here's what the back looks like. You can see the clearances. And that's a pretty good fit for that. But every engine I learn more and more on. And it has a little bit of two-stroke oil on the crank weights. I use a little bit of Silcoline. And you can see the motor seal is starting to dry. And it's a good investment to have the motor seal on there, because it's made by Permatex, and you can get like permanent gasket thing that you got to take it off with it, like high heat. That's what's nice about motor seal. It's made for building your engine and tearing it down. Now here's something that I found with the 54mm pistons, the big ones. This is the front of the piston skirt right here. This is the rear. For some reason, 2mm of the front of the pistons always taps down on the crank weight. And well, in the rear too. So I have to take a little bit off. Now, the mistake I made, and I just recently found this out in balancing crankshafts, is you need your crankshaft and your piston and your rod to be statically balanced. And I'm not quite sure what that means, but it means that you don't want to start taking weight off the piston if you're not taking it off the crank, or adding, or something like that. Anyway, I just found a website that does that. Now here's another little trick right here. And if you ever run into it, this is a Honda stator right here. And as you can see, all the little bolts, bolts that hold the case in here, they have all got that motor seal on them, because I want to make them airtight, even up here. This is your magnet right here. Okay, these are your stators, and your alternator goes around it. Now when you go to put in your seal, this seal has to be in so deep for the stator to work around it, because the stator has a deep inset. So what I do is I take my little black tool, it's like this, and I mark off like an inch, and then I'll just tap the seal in there with a little bit of oil. But what you do not want to do, this is very important, this little item here is 150 bucks. If you break these windings or you damage any of them in any way, you're not going to get any electricity, you're not going to get any battery, you're not going to get any spark, and your bike is going to sit there till God comes back. So if you need to go take this stator off or your flywheel, do it very, very carefully, because I tell you, it cost me a lot of money to fix that one problem. But your stator will go on here. It's held in right here and right here. Your alternator or stator or whatever the hell it is, I'm not an electrician, it does not move. This does not move. What moves is your crankshaft is attached through a key, cotter key, not a cotter key, it's a, shit, I can't remember the name of it, it gets old. Anyway, it's keyed into the alternator, not the alternator, but the flywheel. And the flywheel turns around this. It isn't the other way around. And I use thread locker blue to hold them in, the bolts in. And I go very, very carefully with this part. So you'll put in a bolt here, one here, and then back up around the bottom of the engine is another bolt. And that's it. Now, like I said before, one little tip is that if this seal starts to leak, which they can leak, you'll get a slight bit of oil which will come out right here, and you won't notice it until it's too late. But what'll happen is the oil will start seeping out, and it gets on the windings here, and then it gets on the inside of the magnets on the flywheel. Then what happens is it starts to drip down under your magnet here, and it starts to drip down on your little wiring down here. If you see any oil down here at all, any kind of oil, nice fine beautiful oil, you've got a leak right here. So you got to take this out and replace it. And the best way to do it is you take a nice little screw, right? And you don't go on this side or this side. Take a nice little screw and a screwdriver. You screw in from on the inside of the seal, and you can also do it on the other inside of the seal, and get yourself a pair of pliers and pull. Now the only thing you're going to damage is the inside of the seal, busted seal, and the screw won't do a damn thing to this solid steel iron crankshaft. So that's how you get them out and put them back in. Put a little oil on them and put them back in. Okay, I hope you're learning something from this, because I wish I had this when I was building my motors. Thank you.